Wonderful. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us this morning for our SOLIDWORKS Friday morning webinar. Our topic today is how to collaborate, organize, and manage your CAD data using 3DEXPERIENCE Works. I'm Joelle Guenette. I'm a territory manager for SOLIDWORKS, and I have with me Michelle Cloutier, who's a technical solutions consultant. If you've been on these sessions before, you've seen us and you know who you are, so welcome again. Before we get going, I'm just going to touch on a few things. We're putting a number of concepts together. I mentioned it at the beginning of the call we had last week, which was kind of part 2 to our 3 series, but part 1 of data management. Why would you want to do data management? One, if you're doing CAD design, you want your files to be organized, you want them to be secure, you want to have some history information, you want your staff or yourself possibly to be able to search through them very easily, very quickly to save time instead of spending your time searching for things or possibly redesigning because you can't find the file that you're looking for, so you do it again. You want to be able to do to have other people in your organization access files, right? Not just you. So at the end of the day, you want the right person to have access to the right file at the right time. And that's important. And there's measures to be able to manage that and be sure that the right person has it at the right time, not before it's ready to go. So that's one aspect of what we're going to talk about today is data management. The other is cloud, because we're doing this in the cloud. So why is cloud in itself interesting for companies? The cloud is interesting because one, if you're going to do a cloud application, there's no install needed. There's no updates that you need to stop working, do the update. These things happen in the background automatically. You can access cloud tools from any device, so you don't need to be on a full work computer. It can be done from a tablet or from a phone or from a computer that's maybe a Mac, not a workstation or Microsoft type computer. So anywhere, from any device, which is very useful as long as you've got internet access. And you don't need servers. So as we're talking about data management, files add up. And in this environment, it saves you on cost of infrastructure, of actual physical servers, and people to manage those servers and implement them and set them up and all of these good things. So just a few things of why people are interested in cloud and why it's important today. So before I jump into the third topic, which is 3DEXPERIENCE Works, how we're bringing all this together, just going to review a few things about the webinar interface that we've got. So if this is your first time using GoToWebinar, you've got a panel on your right-hand side of your window. There's a orange arrow that you can click on to minimize that panel and give you visibility onto a full screen of the presentation. You have access to video audio, either by computer or by phone. If you click on the phone option because your computer audio is not great and you want to switch, it will show you the phone number and the access code to get on. So don't worry about looking for those back into your invite. We've got some handouts that are there. You can click and download those at any time. And I see that the list is growing, actually. We went from 3 to 5 handouts. So at any time, you can click on those and download them so that you can have access to them and view them later. And then the most important is the question section. So if you've got any questions as we're going through this, please don't hesitate. Write your questions. We're sharing this information so that you're learning and you can figure out how this applies to you. So if we have time at the end, we'll go through them. If we don't, we know who's written the questions and we will come back to you separately in an email. So let's touch on that third aspect. We talked about data. We talked about cloud. How we're doing this at SOLIDWORKS. We have a number of different aspects of data management, but the cloud one is on 3DEXPERIENCE Works. What is that? This is a Dassault platform. Dassault has a number of technologies and solutions that address different aspects of design, simulation, manufacturing, managing data, and all of these great technologies, we're trying to bring them into the SOLIDWORKS world, which is another division of Dassault. And this comes through on the 3DEXPERIENCE Works platform. This is a platform that accesses everyone in the enterprise or can regroup everyone in the enterprise with different solutions, different apps, and it is a workplace for everyone to be able to have access to this. And because it is cloud, then obviously it doesn't have the limitations of geography. only has limitations of internet. So a little easier. And as you're going through this and working with the 3D Experience platform, you'll see that there's applications to find what you in your role in your day-to-day job need. It has services and it has content. As you're sharing, you're collaborating, working together as an enterprise, you can access these different things depending on what, as an individual, you have access to in terms of apps. So we're going to explore some of those today that have to do with data management. And I will let Michelle recap what we've done in the last few sessions quickly before we continue on this path of showing you what the capabilities are of the platform. So Michelle has been with SOLIDWORKS for 15 years. He has seen data management without data management, CAD without data management, then data management coming to play, and then becoming a core aspect of what engineers do and companies try and organize in their daily lives. And now we're just expanding into that into a new solution, which is cloud on 3D Experience Works. And Michelle, I'll hand it over to you and come back at the end to close this off.
Well, thank you, Joelle, and welcome everyone to our session this morning. Like Joelle mentioned, this is the third part of our three series of webinars where we touched on 3D Experience Works. Now, if you weren't there, all those sessions were recorded. I'll send you the link. We'll show the link at the end, but you can email me if you wanted to see the recording. So the first session we did was on April 3rd, where we talked about collaborative business innovator. In that session, we talked about how to create dashboard to just expose different types of data. We talked about communities. One key aspect of 3D Experience, the platform, is communities, where we can save like tons of email just by creating communities where we go in basically and create message boards on different topics, different groups. It's really up to you how you organize these, but you can simply post, create posts, put information, people go in and comment on them. A great way to go away from emails all the time. We also talked about how that integrates with 3D modeling. Like Joelle mentioned, the 3D Experience is a social community platform, but it's centered around 3D data, 3D CAD. So we have applications like 3D Drive where you can share your CAD models to anyone you want. You have the 3D Play where you can actually view CAD models on a web browser with nothing installed on whatever platform you're working on. So we talked about this on April 3rd. And then last week, we focused more on the SOLIDWORKS users. All right, so I'm using SOLIDWORKS. I have my traditional SOLIDWORKS installation. I work on SOLIDWORKS, I love it. How do I manage my files using the cloud? So what we did in that session is we really saw how we connect. We're not replacing anything, we're just connecting the traditional desktop SOLIDWORKS to the cloud platform. And in that session, we saw how we can easily open and save files directly to the cloud platform. We saw how if I have files stored on the cloud, how I can simply search or use my favorites or bookmarks and simply drag and drop within the interface. I don't have to leave SOLIDWORKS to do that. I do that directly from within SOLIDWORKS. We talked about revision control as well, how we can create revisions of files when we change them to have a history of changes. So we saw that last week. We also saw once all the data is stored in the cloud, well, now I have access to that data anywhere in the world. It's on the cloud, it's secured, it's on the cloud, but then I have access to that data through a browser. And actually, we're going to focus more on that today because there's a number of set tools on the cloud that are really useful. So we're going to focus a bit more on that. So again, a bit of a preview. We're going to do that using the collaborative industry innovator role. I'm also going to touch on a optional role that's called the project planner. It helps you do scheduling with resources and time and assign tasks to your teammates and colleagues. So we're going to touch on that today. So technically, if we go a little bit more details, what we're going to be doing today, we're going to talk about how to create revisions. I'll touch a little bit on branches as well, which are a little bit different than revisions. We're going to see the actual planning of creating a schedule, assigning tasks to people. Now that I've assigned tasks, how do I get those done? So we're going to jump actually into SOLIDWORKS a little bit to do some changes. And then we're going to talk about how to document issues, a more formal documentation method than just assigning tasks and things like that. So first things first, creating revisions and branches. Now, if you were on our session last week, you saw how we can create revisions on the fly inside of SOLIDWORKS. I'm going to do one example as well. But now that the data is all stored on the cloud, as a manager, for example, I could actually start revisions using the data on the cloud without having to go into SOLIDWORKS. I could create revisions on models and then assign work to my colleagues. So that's what we're going to do in the next couple minutes. So in order to do that, I'm doing this live today over the internet while I'm showing all of this to you. So let me jump into my Chrome browser. Like I said, we're working off of the internet, so my data is stored on the cloud. So I'm going to simply go to my platform. Now, I was on there earlier, so that's why it's not prompting me for a password. But obviously this is secured, so you need a login and password to get in. And basically this is where we left off last week, right? So if you remember, we were working on this model last week. So that's my finished model. Before I did that, you see there were 2 revisions. So actually I started using this model, which was half complete. And you'll notice that the handles here were changed. We also added some components to that. So that's where we started last week. Now, this week, I'm actually going to be working on a different model because I like to show different things. So this week, we're going to be working on this little remote submarine or remote ROV to do inspection in the sea, obviously. So this is going to be our model we're going to be working on. And more specifically, we're going to be working on the gripper that is in front of this ROV. So right now you don't see it on the ROV itself, but this is the gripper. And basically what we're going to be doing is that I want to create a revision because I figured that 2 fingers to grab items and things in the sea is not enough. I want to create a revision where I have 3 fingers to grab everything I need to. So let's go back and first see what's the status of this gripper. So first of all, you see here I got 2 revisions. I got revision A1 and B1. If I look at the properties, and again, I'm doing all of this directly on my browser, no software installed, no need for a software to be installed. I just want to review what's been done so far. So here my revision A1 was my initial design. Now, a couple of things I can do, I can select this and I can actually just go in and explore the structure of this assembly. Again, everything is done on the cloud. So here's my assembly we see on the right. I can explore the structure. I can kind of dig in. I got a sub-assembly right here. I can dig into that further. So this tool here, the Structure Explorer, is simply a good tool to kind of look into the data. Notice that I can also export all of this report into a Excel spreadsheet if I want to. Now, when I come back here and I look at this revision, I'm gonna go into properties. And here we can see that there was a revision because there were some interferences, right? So I want to see what those interferences were. From here, I could actually launch the 3D viewer as well, right from within here. But even here, looking at this and kind of probing around, it's really hard for me to understand what actually changed on this model. So what I'll do here is rather than do that, I'll say I want to compare revision 1 and revision 2, or A and B, I should say. So I'm gonna set these two side by side. And I have to say, this tool right there, the compare tool, is one of my favorite tools on 3DEXPERIENCE platform. The ability to go in, look at a 3D model and compare it directly on the browser like this, really amazing. Now, what I can do as well is that I can filter in and out what I'm seeing. So I don't really care for everything that's identical. I want to see what's changed. So I'm gonna filter out my identical components, and very quickly now I got a really good understanding with that color overlay of what actually changed when I zoom in. Well, now it's very easy to understand that I actually moved these bolt holes uh, to take care of the interference in my assembly. Also, I could go back in here and kind of navigate through all the changes. So you see this is a screw. It's the identical screw, but it's in a different position. So I can also evaluate the position of my parts. Same for this one here. It's the same gripper finger, but in a different position. You see it can open more widely now because I took care of the interference. So I can cycle through all of this, but I got a great understanding of what's the differences. I could also, again, create an Excel spreadsheet of this report. So if I did a lot of changes and I want to convey this information, I can easily export this into an Excel spreadsheet and share that internally or externally just to show what changed in that model. But now back to our initial problem, which is I need a 3-finger gripper. Now, as I'm taking the role as a manager, I can create directly from here without having to open SOLIDWORKS or to do anything inside of SOLIDWORKS on the cloud. I could say, well, I need to create a new revision, and I'm going to call this 3-finger revision. Let's make it simple, and I'll say revise, and you'll see it automatically will capture the C1 revision, which is the next in line, and I'll say revise. And you'll see this little icon come up, and actually it's going to populate. It's generating the preview in the back end. So I got a new revision that now I'm going to, in the next step, assign to one of my colleagues or team members. Now these are revisions. Another thing we can do, if I expand this, you'll notice I also have something else here called branches. So I can also create branches, and here's an option where I actually created a branch where I didn't want to revise this model just yet, but I wanted to do a different option. And this option here was actually an option, so it would be a cutter instead of a gripper. And again, I can go in and compare these with other versions. So I'm comparing the cutter and I can compare that to another of my options or another of my revisions. So quickly, we saw how we can create revisions and branches. Again, one of the tools I love is the compare tool, where we can really quickly look at two different models side by side with a color overlay, and we can see really clearly what's different between these two parts or assemblies. Now, the next thing I want to do is talk about scheduling, planning, tasks. So again, as in the role of a manager or project manager or engineering manager, I need to assign tasks and plan for the development of my product. So we have a tool where we're going to actually go in next and create a task, assign that task, set a number of days, and attach this task to other related tasks in my project. So back to my platform, I have a tab, which is the project planner. And coming into the project planner, I'm simply going to see really quickly how my project looks like. What's the planning of my whole project? So as you can see, directly on the web. Again, I've got all these tasks going along with my project. When I start zooming in into some of these, I can actually just go in and zoom in. So we see right now we're in the task called design review. That's what we're doing today. If I move along, we see that all these tasks are connected. So once the design review is done, I need a couple, maybe a day or two to do the design release. That's going to be a milestone where my design is completed. And then I have a couple days here for manufacturing and when I'm going to ship to my customer. So I need to create a task here and assign one of my coworkers the task to change the models and create the revision. So we're going to do that right here. So let's go in here and create a new task. And change, the name of this is going to be change revision, 3-finger gripper. I can add a bit more description. I can say, hey, I think that's going to maybe take a day or two. I'm gonna actually put more than less, not 32, but let's say 2 days. And then I can also say, well, I can, give and take a couple here. So I'm gonna set it to 2 days, add some description, and I'll say create. So you see now I've created this task for 2 days, accounting for the weekend. We are Friday after all. Now I need to connect this with the rest of my content, right? So this is gonna move it up to before manufacturing, but now I need to connect it to the rest. So this here is going to be connected because it needs to be done after the design review. So you see what happens when I connect it, it moves into position, but I have to finish this before the design release. So I'm connecting it to the design release, which in turn pushes the design release further out, which in turn pushes manufacturing further out. So now I have a really clear understanding of all of these changes as I do them. What's the impact on my timeline, on my schedule? One thing we can also do here, which is kind of neat, is let's say that my ship date right now is, May 7th. So I'm gonna pin this and I'm gonna say, would I be able to move my ship date to May 6th? By doing that, we see some of these tasks. So some of these tasks, I gave them like a plus minus. So if I shorten my manufacturing by a day, I could actually make that delivery time if that I want to. So very easily, we can now create these tasks and have a good understanding of what's the timeline involved for everything. Now, the one thing I didn't do is that I didn't assign someone to do this task. So I'm going to back in. I can actually I'm going to assign myself. So now you see my little icon next to it. I want to do a bit more than that though. If I'm assigning someone to do the work, I want them to know exactly what to work on. So in my task pane here, I got different options. So I can, select, add my description. I can say what's the priority. Actually, I'm going to put that at high priority. I want it to be done like now. I can set some, change my dates. We saw how to do that, but I can also add attachments. So now what's kind of neat here is that I could go, for example, in my lifecycle tab, because I want to work on that C1 revision. I'm going to take this tile here, drag and drop onto the project planner, and drop it right in my attachments. So now this product is attached to this task. So I know exactly what needs to be done on what document. Now I can close this. And while we're talking about project planner, what is also neat is that we can have a 10,000 feet overhead, view of this project. We can look at milestones, what's to do in progress and done, my tasks. I have a risk assessment. So, some of these tasks are in the future, they're good, but I got some tasks that are at risk because I'm kind of running behind or close to running behind, and these are actually really late. I have a burn down of my different tasks over the different days, my resources, how much people is working on those tasks, and actually a list of the people working on these tasks. So a nice overview, and then if I want to see just the task, I can also filter them from here. I got my to-do in progress and done, but then I can sort them by priority. I can also sort them by planned date. So now you see that today we need to do this design review task or finish this design review task, and amongst other things. So very quickly, that's one of the other benefit is with the platform, and all these tools are web-based. I don't need nothing to install, so I could actually create these tasks if I'm traveling on an iPad, on any type of computer, but it's really easy to use. That's just the beauty of it. You just create a task, assign who wants to work on it, attach documents to make sure they know what to do, and then you schedule it. You have a good understanding of your project timeline. So now I've created the task. I need the actual work to be done, and that work needs to be done inside of SOLIDWORKS. I need to do some changes inside of SOLIDWORKS. So next, I'm going to actually become a designer, working inside of SOLIDWORKS, and show you how I can access my tasks, open the documents. I'm going to do the changes, obviously, and save all my changes back to the platform. So as a designer, I'm in SOLIDWORKS. I work in SOLIDWORKS day in and day out. I'm going to connect to my platform. Again, this is a secured environment, so you need to be logged in. So really what we're doing is SOLIDWORKS is installed on my computer, but I'm connecting SOLIDWORKS to my platform where all the files are stored. Now, after a couple seconds, this actually connects to my platform. As you can see, I don't have anything open, but I can expand my panel here and have access to my tasks right from within SOLIDWORKS. So very quickly, let's do what's assigned to me. Let's actually do a bit of refresh here. There we go. Took a couple seconds to load, but here I got a view of all my different tasks. Now you see there's actually a lot more tasks than what you saw before, because when I'm not presenting and when I'm not doing webinars, I actually use personally the project planner to just do my own schedule, my own personal work schedule. So that's why I have a little bit more here. But here, this is actually the change I need to do. So here is change of the revision. I've got the details here on the right. Now I want to start working on this. So what I'll do is very simple. I'm going to move it to the in progress, just to let everyone know that I've started working on it. But then I need to open the actual SOLIDWORKS assembly. See, it went to 10% automatically just by moving it to the in progress. I know I need to work on this assembly. Well, from here, I don't even need to search to try to find it. I just drag and drop the assembly into SOLIDWORKS, and SOLIDWORKS does the rest. It grabs the files I need, downloads them from the internet if I haven't been working on this design, and then I can actually start working on the modification of this part. So, this is something you saw also last week, right? So we have a list of all my different components. Now, I know I'm going to be working on this assembly, but I'm going to need to change this part, which is the holder and also the push plate. So I'm going to control select them and reserve them, just to let everyone know on my team, if we're working on the same assembly, that I'm actually doing some modifications right now. And once this is done, we can actually go in and work on those. So I'm going to do the changes really quick inside of SOLIDWORKS. This is a pattern. I'm going to change that to 3. Save that. I'm going to go into this part here, which is also reserved by me because I'm doing some changes on it. Change that to 3 as well. You saw it updated. Save and close. And because the fingers were actually a pattern with the bolts and the screws, everything is up to date. I can save this, but now I need to update my changes. So what I'll do from the panel is say, all right, let's save this back up to the cloud because my work's done. Revision, my gripper is actually already in revision C, so I don't want to do a new revision for that. But the holder here, that's going to need a new revision because I want to keep the old revision is the 2-finger revision. And the push plate is also going to need a revision for that. So on the fly, I'm going to actually create new revisions for these 2 parts. And then in the comment field, I'm going to say changed to 3-finger revision. So I just add a quick mark to that. And then I'm going to say, well, I'm done working on this, so I can release all the different files and finish my work. I hit save. So at this point, I'm actually saving back to the cloud, to the platform, all my information, all the models, the update, the revision, everything's gonna link back to my online cloud storage, secured. And actually, I could from here close it, go back into my tasks. Well, we were working on this task here, which is the revision. Well, it's done. Let's move it to done. And that in the back end is actually going to update the project plan for this, which is great. Now, the other thing too, and I didn't really mention that. So here I got another task to create marketing content. So I'm being asked to create sales videos and spec sheets and whatnot. So I'm actually going to add to that. Let's just say I've completed it. One thing I didn't mention is that we can actually tie in and add documents that are not SOLIDWORKS as well. So the platform is really can take anything. So from here, let's just say that I finished my spec sheet. So I got a PDF here. I want to put that as a deliverable with my task. I also want to update maybe a little video of that robot going into the sea. Click OK to that. I'm going to save. So now all these documents are being uploaded to the platform. And well, that just took 2 minutes. So I could actually mark it complete right from here. And as you can see, it went automatically to the complete task right inside of my task panel. So again, actually, before we kind of wrap up, let's go back to my project. See, I just went back to the project just to show you, you know, the revision finger, everything has been updated, and I could, you know, do an F5 if I just want to refresh my view. But very quickly, everything's been updated, everything is complete. The modifications were done. Actually, the changes and in the scheduling kind of shifted around as well. Actually, if I unpin this, you'll see it move back to the delivered date. So it went back 1 day before, because my change here, the revision I've done much faster. I was originally scheduling for 2 or 3 days, but now because it's already done, everything moved back in. So I got a good understanding of what changed in my schedule. So again, the beauty of all these tools is that as a manager, I can create or schedule my project, but as a SOLIDWORKS user, I have access to these tasks right inside of SOLIDWORKS. They're very easy. You can see them on the side panel. I don't even need to search for what I need to do. I just grab it from the attachment, drop it inside of SOLIDWORKS. It's going to open inside of SOLIDWORKS. So and the data all stored on the cloud, so it's going to create a local copy so I can work on it. When I'm done, I push it back out with my new revisions. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is my tasks. So we just saw that. The benefit obviously is because my tasks are visible inside of SOLIDWORKS, but I need to do some better gathering of information, right? So I want to talk about issues. So far, everything we've done was informal, right? We just created a task, assigned a task to someone. We never really documented why we're making that, what's the reason, or you know, is there because I got an issue, a problem with the warranty. So we never really went into documenting what I'm doing. But we can certainly do that. Now, before I talk about issues and the concept of issues, let me walk through the little backstory of what we're going to do. Now, this is a ROV, a remote operated vehicle, submarine, goes in under the water. It's actually rated to go up to 1,000 meters down. That's 3,300 feet. That's the equivalent of 1,500 PSI, give or take. And when I do that, obviously there's going to be some deformation. And this is actually, I've done this simulation in SOLIDWORKS Premium using simply simulating a pressure load on the, what I call the capsule in front. Now in that capsule, there's a lot of expensive stuff. The cameras are there, the controls for my robot are there. So it's very important that they stay okay while the submarine is going underwater. And with this depth, this pressure, there's deformation. Deformation underwater is not good because now I can have leaks coming into an area where I don't want any leaks. So I want to do a change, or actually I want to document this a proper way so I can track it back later. And so I have a history of maybe what has been done to these changes. So we see here on the end caps, that's really where the problem is. So I got a lot of deformation there, and I want to properly document. I don't want to just say, hey, go ahead and change that. I want to have a proper documentation method where I can capture all of the comments and maybe attach some documents. So we're going to use issues for that. So let's jump back into the platform. And before we do that, maybe we can go back and take a look at my collaborative lifecycle just to see my revisions. So you see now the revisions, the new revision is here. It's actually the update, the graphic here, the little icon's gonna update, but you can see that I got my 3-finger version over here. Again, because I really love the compare tool, I'm gonna use it again just for fun. Right, so I want to compare my C revision with maybe the B revision, put it here, select the B. You saw me use that a little bit earlier with revision A and B. Now I'm comparing revision B and C together. So again, these tools are really useful when I want to compare these products together. But really what I need to do now is track my issue. So I'm gonna go into this tab here, and back to my original story with my little ROV robot. I want to track a problem or a potential problem. It's going to be on this assembly. So let me just move it around so we can see the area of concern right here. And from the 3D viewer, now I'm doing this issue or capturing this issue on the 3D model, but issues are not, they can be done for pretty much anything. Now, let's go ahead and capture a new issue. What's the issue? I want to have a brief description. So I'm simply going to say high deformation of end caps. Detailed description. I'm going to type this quickly, so I might do some typos, but due to pressure, end caps deform and could cause water problems like this. Now, what's my recommendation to solve this? I could say further simulation and testing. And then say maybe we need to revise end caps to make them more or stiffer, make them stiffer. And then what's the priority of that? I'm gonna set that to high priority. I can even set a due date if that's of importance. So let's push that to, well, let's say Wednesday next week. I want this done. Now I'm capturing just some basic information here. Now here I can say, okay, what's related to this issue? Well, we just saw the model on the back end of this form, so I'm going to say, well, the issue is on this part. I'm going to select it. You saw the little arrows, kind of pop up because I got two of the same part, so that's why there's two of them. But what's kind of neat here is that in my issue, it's reported against this part, which is the actual part that has a problem. But this part is in the context of this assembly. So now I can track all of these issues if they're related to 3D models. I can track them this way. In the form, I can then go ahead and say who owns this issue, who's assigned to fix it. Here I've got the option to assign to me by default. I can even go in and add some attachments. So prior to discovering this, I ran a little bit of simulation, and I have an image of this factor of safety plot. So I want to add this to my issue. I also have the Word report. So this report, that's a Microsoft Word document. I can select it and say, well, you know what? If my simulation guy is going to be doing some further simulation, this is a good starting point for him. So I'm going to add this and simply say that I want to start this issue. So now all of this information is captured. I know exactly what the issue is, who's working on it. It's relating to what items. I even added some attachments. Now you see the files being uploaded directly to the 3DEXPERIENCE platform. And once this is done, I can now minimize this and actually take a look at some of the other issues. So the issue I just created is the last on the bottom, but as I said, issues are not necessarily CAD related or SOLIDWORKS related. They could be really about anything. So here I got an issue about warranty, and when we look about in that problem, we realized that the PCB actually failed because it overheated. And then I have options, or actually I can tell, okay, what's my recommended action? So the recommendation is to send a new PCB board as soon as possible. What actions were taken? Well, I shipped this PCB board. I even put the FedEx shipping number just to keep track of things. But the resolution of this would be, well, in the future, we should really do a more in-depth thermal analysis so this doesn't happen again. So here's an example when my PCB board, I actually even added an image of that board for reference, so I can add snapshots and screen captures. Here's another image, not image, but issue related to budget. So again, issues are not CAD specific, but when they are, what's neat is that now in this issue, if I expand it, you actually see how this issue is tied and to what other components this issue is tied into. So in the future, if I look at this end cap, for example, I can actually see in my relations that there's been an issue created against this part. So now I have a relationship of all of these components, and now the issue is not showing. It takes a couple of minutes to index. But the other thing too, once I got my issues here, is I can now create reports. So I can go in and do export all my issues. I could also select one if I have something. If I want to print, I could do it right from here. So I could print my issues like this, or I could select it and also create a document out of it, a PowerPoint document in this case. So if I want to track this in a more, let's say, formal manner, I have a nice PowerPoint document now that I can open with a detailed information of this. So oftentimes we see companies, they want to actually document this in a what they call maybe a product book or something like this. So this is also a great way to do all of that directly on the platform. So now we just saw how we can track those issues, really a intelligent issue tracking. Up to now, I was doing some revisions. I had done some revisions, some changes, didn't really track why I was doing these. Issues are a great way to actually do that. So if you want to have, a trackable log of, those issues, you can easily do that. The other thing too I didn't mention, so the issues can be set, as you can see on the image, to do in work, in approval, completed. So there's this progression or status that we can do. The other thing is that on the back end is that it's also sending notifications via email. If I assign someone to that issue, that person is being notified automatically, even though I didn't use the project planner. So I could use the project planner in combination, but this also sends notifications along with the project planner as well. So to wrap up things, so we saw how directly from the platform, I can do flexible revision control. We talked a little bit about branches as well, which is neat. So I can do these things and prepare the work for my team ahead of time. I can create a revision from the cloud and then using the project planner, assign work or assign tasks to my colleague, again, on the web platform through a browser, a web browser. Now, these tasks, what's neat when you're working in combination with SOLIDWORKS is that they're visible inside of SOLIDWORKS. You see them, they're there. You can move them from to do to in progress to done. You can attach documents to them. Remember when I actually assigned a task and say, hey, I want you to work on this revision, I put it as an attachment, so the designer downstairs gets this task, knows exactly what to work on. And also, I can put other types of documents, right? So the platform is not a SOLIDWORKS thing. It understands SOLIDWORKS files, but you can put any type of documents that is relevant to that project. I added the an AVI movie and PDF files, even Word. I added a Word document when I did my issue. And again, the issue, a great way to just track, have a formal tracking or a more formal tracking way of understanding and creating these issues that you can now report on. You have a history of those issues. There's actually an approval process within these issues as well. So hopefully you like this session. We talked about a lot of different tools, and the analogy I'm going to do, if you've been on this series of 3 webinars, we've talked about different tools, actually 4 of them. The analogy I like to make is like with a smartphone. When you buy a smartphone, out of the box, there's some set of apps. The phone, the calendar, the mail, the browser, there's some set of apps installed on the phone. That's like our collaborative business innovator that we saw on April 3rd. Now, who's that for? That's really for anyone in the company, because to some level, anyone is related to product development. But if we talk about designing products, really anyone involved in the development. Obviously, designers, engineers, and managers, but sales, marketing, manufacturing, all of these people are involved in the development and manufacturing of a product. So they're all good candidates for this tool, for the collaborative business innovator. Like I said, this is like when you buy the smartphone out of the box, that's all the different set of apps you get. Now, depending on what you do and what you need, we add to that. If, for example, you do product or project management, you have to deal with CAD files. You're going to be using Collaborative Industry Innovator. And when I say you have to deal, you have to review, you have to mark up, you might want to comment. you want to see the design, but you're not really a designer, you don't really work inside of SOLIDWORKS. So this is a great tool for you. If you want to do some planning, really project management planning, the project planner is the app, or the role I should say, that you can add as well. Now, as far as product design goes, collaborative designer for SOLIDWORKS is exactly that for SOLIDWORKS. If you're a SOLIDWORKS user and now you want to connect everything, store the data on the cloud in a secured environment, you would add to that the product designer. So now you can connect the traditional SOLIDWORKS desktop back to the platform and be in that ecosystem on the cloud platform. So hopefully that helps a little one to see everything, kind of put everything in place. So we talked about, in the last 3 webinars, we actually covered these 4 tools. So today we talked more specifically on Project Planner and Collaborative Business or Collaborative Industry Innovator. I did a little bit of SOLIDWORKS, not too much. So we kind of focus on the 2 applications in the middle of the chart here. But again, if you want to view the other webinars, they're recorded. I'll put the link at the end of the session, so you can go back in and see what the other tools do if you miss them. Quick story, Square Robot, one of our users, you can actually pull this story if you want to read about them, how they're using this tool. And day in, day out, you can pull it from the handout section. But after the session, I'll actually play a 3 or 4 minute video that tells their story, and they actually walk you through how they use the 3DEXPERIENCE platform for storing, saving, managing their SOLIDWORKS documents. A little bit of information, again, on our website. You're going to find some there. And on that, I'm going to let just Joelle wrap up things while I take a quick peek at questions, if there's anything I can answer quick.
All right, thanks, Michel. Great information as always. Once again, we understand that the 3DEXPERIENCE platform is possibly new as a concept, as an idea, as a word for what you're hearing in these webinars, and maybe a little confusing. So we're trying to demystify that, trying to show you how it connects to your SOLIDWORKS, how it works with your SOLIDWORKS, and how all of these tools have, at the end of the day, design of a product at the core of it, versus any other miscellaneous tools that your company may already be using, that 1, work independently from one another, and 2, do not have CAD file designs at the core of their concern, and that requires special help. So today that may work for you. Tomorrow it may become a little bit different. We all thought that we were set up for the world we were living in before pandemic, and today it's a new reality. So there's always new things to look at. And one, having to work from home is bringing about new realities. Companies are looking for new solutions that they can work with, but even in regular time, which we can use as an expression, people were looking for hiring employees that are not necessarily in where their core office is. They need people from different areas to find the right talent, and sometimes just to find people. And you want to make sure that they're connected, and that your company is working and collaborating properly. And that's what the 3DEXPERIENCE platform is there for companies to do. So innovate with a higher degree of confidence, make the right decisions by having the right information, and improve productivity by sharing easily. Were there any questions, Michel?
Yeah, there's quite a few. I won't have time to answer all of them.
Right.
So to Craig's point, yeah, I didn't show any drawings. Sorry, I just forgot to put some drawings in there. But definitely, you could store some drawings in there. I actually had some drawings on my session last week, I believe, where I actually uploaded an assembly and parts with drawings. So if you want to see a little bit how that works, I can send you the link. Good question. And how will they get? Okay, so I'm working on an assembly, for example. One of my colleagues is working on a sub-assembly or a part. How do I get to pull the new version if, let's say, Joelle has done an update? Actually, again, I I covered that a little bit last week. You can simply go on the SOLIDWORKS panel. There's you'll see a little plus sign, meaning that the version on the cloud platform is newer than what you're working on. And then you can simply do a right-click reload that updates, refreshes instantly. Yeah, there's other questions. We're getting close to the bottom of the hour, so I'll answer via email, just to take this offline.
All right. So we haven't forgotten you. We appreciate the questions, and they are important to us as much as they're important to you. So we will follow up with you. Remember that you have a number of different resources at your disposal. One, you can share this webinar with others in your company if you think that's worthwhile. If you want to have conversation as how this can apply for you specifically as a company, we'd be happy to have those conversations. If you're looking at data management and you're not sure if cloud is the way for you to go, we have other solutions. So let's explore them. Let's have that conversation as well if that's where you want to go. This series was to introduce the beginning of the platform of 3DEXPERIENCE Works. We're just scratching the surface. More apps and roles are being added regularly. We have things for designers to be able to do in the cloud that we're going to show in maybe a month and a half. So there's a lot of things that we're going to be showing. So stay tuned to the announcements for these webinars, either from me or from your reseller, whoever you're getting them from, and hopefully you come back and see the rest of this. So with that, communicate back to us if you have anything. Let's all be patient while we're going through this pandemic. Find ways to work, explore new ways to work, and stay safe, stay healthy, you and your family. That's what we wish for you the most. And thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time. Bye for now.
All right, thank you. Bye.